Hey, welcome back to the Freeze-Dried Business channel. My name is David. I'm an owner of a freeze-dried business in Idaho. If you're looking at starting a freeze-dried business or you're currently operating one and you're just wanting to know more and more about how you can grow your business, this channel's for you. Today we're going to be doing BitOHoney. BitOHoneys are actually my top 20 selling items to do as a freeze-dried business. If you want to check out that video, it's in the description below. I'm going to be showing you the unwrapping of the candies, the cutting, as well as the arrangement on the trays, and then also the freeze dryer settings that you need for this BitOHoney. So let's get started with this video. Alright, so let's go ahead and get the freeze dryer set up before we start arranging the candy. I'm going to show you how to put it in candy mode right here. So if you have version 5.1 or higher for your Harvest Right freeze dryer, it's really simple to put into candy mode. You press customize, and then you're really just going to change the dry temperature to above 130 degrees. So let's go ahead and change it to 140. That's what I like for the BitOHoneys. We've got it on dry mode is fast, and we don't need any extra freeze time, but that's okay to leave an initial freeze. And then extra dry time is not even going to be applied, so we save, and then we're going to start. So now that the freeze dryer is started, we're just going to shut the door and then get started on prepping the candy. Okay, so now we're ready to cut, and I just want to show you the tools that I'm using. One is just a really good knife that has a sharp blade. I use an old antique knife sharpener, but you can find one on Amazon. I've got a link in the description below. So I'm just going to sharpen up the blade a little bit, and really all we're going to do is I'm going to unwrap the BitOHoney, and then I'm going to cut it into 3 different sizes so we can kind of see what the variable different sizes are. So I'm going to do some in whole, do in half, and then also do in thirds. You can cut the BitOHoney in half, let's say, and then try to kind of squeeze it out of the wrapper. I did this similar to the taffy video, but you know, I know you can do that, but I found that it's just easier to just unwrap the BitOHoneys before you start cutting. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, people who like freeze-dried candy like it because, one, it's a different type of texture, so it's fun. Usually the flavor hits a little bit faster because it's crunchy. And people who can't do chewy candies, now they can. I'm just gonna keep unwrapping probably, I'd say, 30 of these individual pieces. With candy, there's really no easy way to prep it. You have to unwrap it, you have to cut it. That's what everybody is doing, and some of us, it's kind of that mindless type of work that sometimes we like. You know, you can turn on a show in the background, or maybe you like music, but you know, it's just kind of fun to kind of see what it does, but it is a lot of work, so you got to figure in those labor costs. Now you might be asking yourself, you know, what do I price BitOHoneys at? You know, what's the type of like weight, how much product do you put in your bags? Well, like I've shown before, I use a Kraft Mylar bag that's food safe but short term. It's about a 5x8 bag, and what I usually do with candy is I fill it to as much as I can without impacting the candy so it's not crushed, you know. So I put as much as in there, then I weigh it, and then I basically kind of have that general weight of the amount of freeze-dried product that's in there. Then I put that weight on the labels. So I've already found that through my bags. Also, with pricing, I usually price this at between $8 to $10. Usually this is a $10 type of candy because I pay about $3.78 a pound for it, and it's just a little bit more labor intensive to do this. Okay, so now that we've got these all unwrapped, we'll cut them into thirds, halves, and leave a couple for holes. All right, so now we're gonna cut in half, and we're gonna cut in thirds. No real quick way of doing this, just find a whole piece and cut them in half. I don't know, I'm just gonna ballpark it. In terms of a process of, like, you know, how many to do and things, you can figure that out. I wasn't gonna do that for this video in particular. I was just gonna show you, you know, here's the cutting, here's the arrangement, here's the different sizes for different ways different sizes that you can cut. and just kind of show you a good candy to do if you're just starting out, or maybe you've started a freeze-dried business and you want to try something different. So we're going to cut these into thirds. Okay. So let's set that aside actually, so we don't get those mixed up. So these are our thirds. Yeah. January is typically a slower month for me, because even though it's, you know, you've got Valentine's Day coming up, there's just not a whole lot of Valentine's Day specific, I don't know, candy, tart shape, stuff like that. So Easter is actually a really big holiday for freeze drying. Just be careful with yourself. I almost cut myself there, as you can see. But Easter's a really good holiday to do freeze dried candy for, and Mother's Day I've seen do well. But it usually picks up for me in the summer months when people are more out and about. There's a little bit more spending money. But January through February is a little bit more tight. Okay, so there we go. So we've got our whole pieces right here. We've got thirds, and then we've got halves. All right, so let's put these on the tray. So let's go ahead and do our whole pieces. And what I'd like to do is just give enough space just to make sure if they pop too big or whatever, just, you know, for the full sizes, let's just do 5 across lengthways. And then for the halves, let's go ahead and do 6 across. And spacing is important if you care about, you know, having it look like a full piece. You know, with, you know, if they were really stuck together, then they might, when it freeze dries and it starts puffing up, it might, when you pull them apart, it might show a little bit more of a detachment type look. So that's why I like having a little bit more space with 6 across. You could probably do 7, but I'm just gonna do 6 just for this video. Okay, so you see how close I'm getting here. This is gonna be plenty of room to get the thirds, and even if it's not, you know, we can obviously put more on another tray, but I'm just gonna do 1 tray for all of you. I'll slide that up a little bit more. And let's do 7 for the thirds. And, you know, like I said at the beginning of this video, the freeze dryer settings is at 140 degrees for about 2 hours. That's it. So those are the thirds. So we've got thirds right here, and then halves, and then we've got our wholes up here. So that looks pretty good. So we've got some leftovers for the next tray. Once you put the BitOHoneys in the freeze dryer, you're going to be prompted to whether you want to warm the trays or not. I don't usually do that for the BitOHoneys, but for certain candies, when you want to change the texture, some candies do need to be warmed first, and then you start the drying process. But for BitOHoneys, you don't need to do that. Just press skip, and then you only need to freeze dry for about 2 to 2.5 hours. So we'll do that on this freeze dryer, and then we'll see what they look like after those couple hours. All right, the BitOHoney is all done. Let's go ahead and take a look to see what they look like freeze dried. Alrighty, so here's some perspective on the different sizes. We've got our full, we've got our half, and our third. So really not much change with the half and the thirds, but definitely the whole. So I would say, you know, to fit more product in and to make it look like there's more bite-sized pieces, I'd probably go with the thirds and the halves. And then for the wholes, you could definitely do that if you want to, throw a couple in there, but that's what they look like. So let's kind of actually see what they taste like. BitOHoneys change their texture, they do become crunchy. So this is a full-size BitOHoney that's freeze-dried. Now hey, I'm not the biggest fan of BitOHoneys even before as a chewy candy, but they are pretty tasty and a lot of my customers like them, so I decided to make a limited number of bags. I do believe that these are a top seller for you to add to your product lineup. Well, that's a wrap on this video for freeze drying BitOHoneys. If you like the content from this video, hit the like button or hit the subscribe button and follow us and join us on this community of freeze dried business owners. Let me know in the comments if you have any feedback or if you'd like to see other things freeze dried that could help you in your business. I hope you have a great rest of the day and we'll see you again next time.